So my name is Yancy Naughton, and I am the founder of the CPC email exchange and HasTraffic and WantsTraffic. The speech today is called The Case for CPC in Email Marketing, and this is not working. Okay. And basically today I'm going to be talking about CPC as an alternative to CPA or CPL, or for that matter, CPM, in email marketing. And I'm going to talk about why it's better not just for advertisers, but advertisers and publishers. So what I'll first do is give a little introduction about myself and why I have a little experience in CPC email marketing and multi-channel advertising as well. I'll talk about the first email, which I think is an interesting story, the history of email marketing as it applies to performance marketing, which is what we're all here to learn about. A topic I like to throw in almost any speech is this: add something to the landscape slide. I'll explain that when I get to it. Then I'll get into more specifically the CPC model versus the CPA model, and why it's both for both the publisher and the advertiser. And I'll open it up for questions. Hopefully I'll have about 10 minutes left for questions. So as I said, my name is Yancy Naughton. Currently, I'm the founder of the CPC email exchange and HasTraffic and WantsTraffic. I'm also a partner in a company called Namerific, which sells domain names as brands as opposed to just names, so they're logoed up. So first, I'd like to talk about the first email. So I put this slide together because the first champagne, I don't know if any of you like champagne, but I quite like the champagne. And what I think is the most interesting thing about champagne is that it was actually invented by the British. There's a chemistry thesis from about 100 years before Dom Perignon. And some chemist basically explained how you could make champagne, but he never made champagne. So, of course, took Dom Perignon. He was making beer and he was making wine, and he kind of fused the two together and came up with champagne. So very much like champagne, email was also invented and never sent, right? So there was this man whose name was Richard Watson. He worked for Rapinet, and he basically wrote a protocol that would explain how to email each other, but he never actually emailed anyone. So the first email was by a man named Ray Tomlinson, and he worked for a company called BBN Technologies. And the first email, the complete text of the email was QWERTY-UIOP, which is a very common password because it's the top row of the keyboard. But so I kind of make this as a joke that Richard Watson, you know, like he was saying, by the way, Richard Watson had no idea how big this was. It was big when Ray Tomlinson did it. But the point of that is that compared to today, what we do with email today, what we did with email 5 years ago, what we did with email 10 years ago, it's a constantly evolving channel of traffic. It's a constantly evolving channel of communication. So my point is that the truth is that opt-in email, as it applies to this conference, as it applies to this industry, is and always has been the most effective, if not, you know, one of the most effective, if not absolutely the most effective channel and performance marketing since its inception. The basic reason for this, simply put, is that if a consumer opens his computer, opens his email, opens the client for his email service, opens the inbox, opens the email, reads the email, and clicks on the email, and clicks on the offer that is being presented to them, then he's very likely to convert on that offer. Compare that to You're on CNN reading an article about David Bowie, and you see a banner for some diet pills. Well, you didn't open up that email, you didn't open up that browser to see a banner about diet. But if you clicked on an email that offered this diet product or offered this business opportunity or whatever, then you're much more likely to be engaged in that and to convert. So over the years, I would say that more leads have been generated by email than any other channel. And CPM in the past was initially the dominant model, right? Because the people who had the commodity, the people with the opt-in email lists, email marketers, they had the keys, right? So they said, well, if you want me to mail your offer, then then we will charge you per 1,000 emails. So I have a million email opt-in list. If you want it sent out, you spend this amount of money per 1,000 emails, and I don't care what happens after that. I send them out. I don't know if they got an inbox. I don't know if they got opened. I don't know if they got read. I don't know if they get clicked. But I send out 1,000 emails, and that's my job, and that's what I did it. So it was initially the dominant paradigm. But then performance marketing got bigger and bigger, and obviously the advertisers were not happy with that model. And so they said, we want to pay per action. We want a CPA, we want a CPL, we want a CPI, whatever it is. And that really is the dominant model currently in this space. Most people buy and sell their campaigns, their offers, based on a CPA or CPL basis. So first you have this CPM model, then you have this CPA model. But the problem with that CPA model was great for the advertisers because they paid for the actions. But then the publishers are sitting there happy in campaigns, and they kind of sat there, right? They didn't want to try a new campaign. They didn't want to switch to a new model or to a new offer because they knew what they were going to get when they sent out 1,000 emails. What they cared about was, I sent out 1,000 emails. What did I make? That's what I did today. My job was to send out emails. How much did I make per 1,000 emails? So they will try new things when their offers get stale, but the CPA model basically limited them to testing with people that they trusted and whatnot. So along comes CPC in the email space. And my argument for CPC is that it's an excellent meeting point between those two points of view. The point of view of the publisher is, what am I going to make if I send out 1,000 emails? The point of view of the advertiser is, I just want to pay, I want to pay $250 for a new client. I want to pay $25 for a new client. I want to pay $5 for a new client. And I don't care how you do it. But essentially, they do care about what they do, because all the advertisers out there in this room across the hallway, they've spent $5,000, $10,000, $15,000 for a booth. They've marketed, they've bought dinners, they've bought suites to entertain the publishers in. They've spent all this money that isn't in the action to get those publishers to publish those offers. And the next day, maybe some other network took those guys out and bought them a better dinner and put them in a better suite or whatever it is. So the point is that the CPC model allows the advertiser to say, I have this new offer. I want it tested by as many publishers as possible. And it allows the publishers to say, OK, I've been running this offer for a while. What else can I do, and who can I trust that if I get in the box, if I get opened, if I get read, I get clicked, am I going to get paid? So it's not as nice as, oh, I just sent it out and don't care what happened. But if all those actions occurred before the advertiser paid, essentially my argument is that CPC is a CPA campaign, because it's not a single action. There's been 5 actions on the part of the user. The user has opened their email and done all these things to get to the landing page of the advertiser. And that is essentially all the actions that can be controlled by the publishers. So the publisher's done his job. Now, everybody knows that all traffic is performance-based. Nobody keeps buying traffic that loses money for them. So you still have the control of the market on that campaign, on that publisher, on that list, whatever it is. But essentially, CPC allows people to test more offers. It allows people to simply put their money down the table and say, please publish it. I'm willing to pay for these, to get these visitors to my website. And that's the slide I should have had up while I was talking about this. But these are the reasons why on the right here. Email is excellent because it's scalable, it's relevant, it's urgent, it's opted in, and it's the behavior and the affinity of the user is identified and targeted. So I like this slide. I saw it on a social network recently, but 15 years ago, you had all this junk mail when you went to the mailbox, and then you got, ding, you've got mail, and you were so excited about it. And of course, nowadays, it's quite the opposite. So this is the slide I always like to put in the presentation, because everybody comes to these conferences. Everyone wants to know, how can I get in the way of more money? How can I make more money? That's why you bought the pass. That's why you came to the show. That's why you came to the session. And my argument and my point above everything else is do something that adds something to the landscape. Are you just going to clone someone else's campaigns? Are you here just to find out what somebody else is doing and do it just like they do it and get in the way of that money? Or are you going to add some value to the landscape? Because adding value to the landscape is what makes your campaign sustainable. What makes people not want to go around you, not go to that other suite and talk to that other publisher, talk to that other advertiser, and better deal you the next day. So everybody in here, regardless of whether you're an affiliate or you're an advertising network or you're whatever it is that you do, add more value than you take out of the space, and you will have a sustainable business. So. How are we in time? Time? No? We're good? All right. So another thing I always like to say is that all traffic has value, but all traffic is inappropriate for all advertisers. So when talking about the email channel, I would say that people who have opt-in lists should do as much as they can to segment their traffic as appropriately for an advertiser as possible. So what that means is that if you have lists that click on diet offers, separate them from the offers, the lists that click on other things, and keep as much data on these lists as possible. Everyone likes to do things on as large a scale as possible, but the more visitors or clicks or whatever the unit of measurement is are segmented and identified before they're delivered, the more value that they have. And from the advertiser perspective, my point is that advertisers should identify their traffic before it gets to their landing page, before it gets to the advertisement, and only present that visitor that is interested in that page to that. And that would be the most efficient way of buying traffic or receiving traffic. So what I mean by this is if the visitor is from the wrong country and you don't really have any monetization in that country, don't just send it anywhere. Send it to somebody who wants that country and who wants that visitor, who wants that mobile device or operating system. And the more you segment your traffic, the more value it's going to be. And this slide is a perfect example of this. 15 years ago, all the restaurants in the United States had a bucket outside the kitchen door. And they took the fryer oil after a couple days and they poured it in the bucket because the fryer oil wasn't good anymore to cook French fries in. And they would have to pay someone $10 to pick up the fryer oil. Nowadays, McDonald's has a bidding platform where the guys who make biodiesel out of fryer oil can bid against each other and pay the market value for that. And that's an efficiency. That's something that supports my claim that you should segment your traffic. And the garbage that's, the dirty fryer oil that's in your kitchen is of no value to you, but it's of value to somebody else. And find that person and send them that traffic or send them that oil. So, and a lot of marketers are harvesting emails, or a lot of advertisers are harvesting emails and kind of sitting on these lists. Or they're using the list to manage their own client contact. So they're basically only communicating with their clients about their own products. My argument is if you have opt-in permission, take a look at the solutions that are out there. Speak to people who email commercial emails for a living and see what else that can be done, because opt-in email lists are very valuable and a lot of people are just sitting on them and not actively marketing on them. So this is kind of like the final slide I have. This is an old Norman Rockwell painting. I think it's from the cover of the Saturday Evening Post. And this is what I was talking about at the beginning of the presentation, the eCPMs of the list owners. They were trying to basically get as much money out of their commodity as possible. And the advertisers wanted to only pay for the performance. And the CPC is in my opinion, the excellent meeting point in between the two, and provides the balance and the force, so to speak. So at this point, I'd just like to open it up to any questions anyone has and take it from there. Doug? Stefan?
When it comes to like international traffic, we're mostly U.S.
Yeah.
I think I've talked to you briefly, and you alluded to it today, the idea of the scraps that, you know, we don't have a need for international traffic. So what are the strategies or solutions for finding ways to monetize the international? If a click comes from a UK IP address to our landing page, probably don't need it. How do you set that up to and find ways of monetizing that?
Yeah, that's actually one of the ways we started doing business. One of the ways HasTraffic kind of added something to the landscape, because a lot of advertisers and networks were in the same situation where they had clicks coming in from other places. What we do is we basically segment them, clean them up, and filter them for duplicates and for wrong IPs, and sell them to the highest bidder. So you could, what we, or any redirect service does, is they take these and sell them to the highest bidder, or they monetize them in ways that are relevant to the visitor's original intent. So if you know that the visitor is interested in auto insurance, for example, but the advertiser is only interested in US advertisers, instead of just sending that to, like, I don't know, an iPad giveaway, you would send it to an advertiser in UK that was looking for a visitor, pardon me, for a visitor for auto insurance. So we segment it, we device target it, and we sell it to the highest bidder. And the selling to the highest bidder part is what I feel is our added value to the space, because as opposed to just rev sharing it or something like that, regardless of what the bid price is, the publisher who's sending us international redirect traffic is always going to get, it works out to about 13.5%. But we mark up anything, regardless of the bid price, we mark up the product 15%, which turns out to a 13.5% margin. So we just add a small margin, just like if you were selling a painting. You'd bring to Sotheby's, you'd say what the minimum bid price was or the minimum reserve price was, and it didn't matter if the painting sold for $10 or $100 or $100,000. The auction house would just get the same commission, or the And their job would be to fill the room with people to bid against each other and raise the price. Is that answer? Yeah?
There's a lot of advertisers, in fact, most of them, that will buy ads on Google, for example, and they generally will be paying relatively high price for those clicks, and there's no better guarantee that they're going to convert versus an email that's going to convert.
Yeah.
An email actually pays a little lower, so why is it the advertiser, not knowing if one's going to, convert better than the other, that they're probably paying more for a Google AdWords campaign versus accepting email? Is there a concern that the quality from an email is not as good as one of those, or hesitancy for?
Yeah, I mean, we're not just an email network. We're a multi-channel traffic network, and our main competitor, or we serve as mainly as a bypass for Google before email. So we have a lot to say about this question, because why are people paying so much more for Google AdWords? And it's branding. It's also, Google is the greatest advertising network that's ever been created. And there's no, I mean, I make my living competing against Google, but there's nothing that's ever been created that is that amazing as far as an advertising network. Yellow Pages was really good for 50 years, but nothing like Google. So the name recognition is there, and a lot of it's deserved. The problem is that it's a black box. They don't tell you what they sell a click for. They don't tell you who they sold it to for, they don't even tell you who they sold it to. So a lot of it's image on the email side. People think of spam, and they open their inbox and they see Viagra and all that crap, and that's what people think about. So a lot of it's just basically overcoming the misconceptions about email and opt-in list and the quality of the traffic. But I mean, there's a couple guys that work for me in the back here. They'll tell you how many people that they've tried to sell on email for a year or two, and they finally get around to it, and all of a sudden they're enlightened by how the quality is so much better than a display click or a search click or even a domain click or a redirect or whatever it is. So, good question. Yeah?
What's the top three ways to buy
To buy the email list? Repeat the question, please.
what's the top three technical ways to buy
Okay, so I really don't know where you can buy email lists, because by their nature, an opt-in list is giving a particular provider a permission to email them marketing materials, basically. So I don't know I really don't know the answer to the question. We are a good place to buy email clicks from lists, but I don't really know where to buy the list, to be honest with you. Anyone else? Okay, well, thank you very much for your time, and appreciate you coming. I was really surprised to see this many people here.